Welcome to tonight's HBCU Sports Edition of the Klown Podcast. I'm Scott Burks. Please check me out on www.theklowntimes.net. You can see the name right here on the hat. And speaking of which, please get your merch at cafepress.com. Search for the Klown Time Sports. You find hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, mouse pads, you name it. But anyway, go there. Again, cafepress.com. Search for the Klown Time Sports. You find the gear there as well. Also find me on Facebook as well. So whether you're on your smartphone, laptop, desktop, wherever you are, wherever you may be. Just type in the Klown Times and search for again, it's Klown Sports. Okay, you find me there. And last but certainly not least, please continue to check me out on YouTube. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Even if you do not agree with what I and my guests have to say tonight, just leave a note anyway. Just be nice about it. Because either way, you'll be glad you did, and I'll be glad you did. And speaking of HBCU sports, that brings me to my guest. Y'all know him from the yards. That's HBCU Sports, reps for all things HBCU sports. So we're Sleazy Widow every Tuesday night on Facebook Live and YouTube. And last but not least, please check out his great work on herosports.com as he writes about all things FCS athletics as they pertain to HBCU sports. Dwayne Nash is back in the house to bless us with more HBCU knowledge. How you doing, sir?
Scott, I am doing well. How about yourself?
I am peachy keen. It's raining cats and dogs outside after another unseasonably warm day in the raining days of winter. But it is what it is. I'm in the house. God bless those who don't have a house to suffer through this weather. But let's just get it going, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
And we're about to catch that rain that you guys are dealing with tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. And also, I noticed that a lot of the country's getting some snow, like it's snowing in California. If you could believe that.
Most definitely. And I'm glad that I kind of dodged that bullet a little bit. My time out there in December, not catching, well, it was a little chilly when I was out there, or at least California chilly for me at least. But yeah, a little bit of flurries that I saw Sunday in Baltimore on my way to the CIAA tournament has been the only snow I've seen all season.
Yeah. And speaking of CIAA tournament, let's get to it. The men and women CIAA basketball championship ended with the women with the Elizabeth City State women winning their first CIAA women's basketball championship with a 55-40 victory over Shaw University. Following that up with Winston State. Shout out to my brother, that's his alma mater, claiming the 2023 CIAA men's championship with a 62-57 win over Lincoln. So let's start with the women. So what things popped out about you about the women's side sports Elizabeth City State? How did they manage to win their first CIAA women's tournament championship?
Well, the key, well, the biggest standout for both the men's and the women's side is that none of the top four seeds on either side made it to the finals.
Good point.
And, Elizabeth City State, who came in as the runners-up last year,
right?
We're capable of powering their way through the tournament this year, making it to the finals. And then you had Shaw, who had a tough hole of it themselves, making their way through the tournament. Their head coach, as a matter of fact, spoke on it Friday night, talking about the amount of games and the hours in which they had to play their games and whether or not it would be a detriment to their team. And the quote that he made was, no one wanted us to be here, but we're here.
Right.
And I kind of get it, because their game Friday night was at 8:00, ending at 10. But the women did get the late game for the evening, with the men playing at 1 p.m.
Right.
So yeah, that's what happens when you're a low seed. When you're coming in as a 6th seed, you're going to have a tough road to hoe. But they did their best, and I truly believe that fatigue most definitely set in for both them and for a little bit, but not as much for Shaw. It really showed with Shaw in the finals against Elizabeth City State. But yeah, it seemed as though that they really wanted to redeem themselves after what happened to them last season, losing to Lincoln in the finals.
Yeah, speaking of Lincoln, I mean, to your point about the top seeds being not that early, Lincoln, the 2 seed, got knocked out in the semifinals by Shaw, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But Fayetteville
Big
State got
upset.
knocked out in the quarters, man, by Johnson C. Smith.
Yeah.
Huge upset. So, and of course, Elizabeth City took out Bowie State, which was 4 seed. But the point being is that this was upset city. I mean, Winston State was the 3rd seed.
Mm-hmm.
It got taken up by Shaw as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's to me, and I'm sure you agree with this. It's not about it's not about your path. It's you can't help who you playing in front of, right? It
True.
is what it is. You can't help
Well,
that.
you kind of can't help when you play in front of you in the tournament. It's based
Sure.
upon what you do during the regular season.
Regular season, correct. Yes.
You play well during the regular season, you kind of dictate who you face a little bit in the tournament. You get a particular seed. Hopefully, things fall your way based upon how your upcoming opponents play, and
Right.
there you have it. But yeah, if you don't play well during the regular season, you get what you get, and you have to fight your way through if you want to end up winning the tournament.
Now, do we like with Fayetteville State getting upset, the women?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Looking at these standings right now, Elizabeth City State came out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
almost literally at 97 conference record. Being the 5th seed, of course. Do you think Fayetteville State could still make the tournament as an at-large bid, as an at-large team?
Because they are a 20-win team, right? Both them and Lincoln, correct?
Well, Lincoln's 19-9 and Fayetteville State finished 18-7, but they had great in conference records, and they have decent records, 19-9 and 18-7 respectively.
Uh-huh.
So I would think, I would hope, but I'm not too sure. Given that both of them did not make the conference final at the very least.
True. If they were 20-win teams, it would almost be automatic for the both of them.
Right.
It's really pending on how the rest of the field looks and what their out of conference OOC looks like.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what their OOC record looks like as well in comparison to the other conferences. But there's a slim chance that one, if not both, can make it in,
Sure.
as well as Elizabeth City State. I'm banking on one of them doing so. We'll wait and see if it will get 3 representatives, but I wouldn't. My hope is that we get 3 in. But I'm anticipating at least. I'm anticipating it too.
Now, who would be the 3rd team?
The 3rd team would be Lincoln.
Lincoln, yeah. Makes sense given their record. Okie dokie. Let's go to the men's side right quick. Of course, we already know that Winston State beat Lincoln to win this conference tournament. Look at the brackets, what they did. They talk about a gauntlet. They beat Kathleen.
Yeah.
They beat Virginia Union, and that was an upset of the age, it seemed like. It was like a defensive game where the people can make shots, 45-44. And, looking at Lincoln's path, like they took out the 2 seed Fairfield State. Well, no, Fairfield State and Virginia State before that. So before I talk bids and everything, like what spurred Winston State besides the fact that they obviously played great defense because they held almost all their opponents in the conference tournament under 60 points. Under 60 points.
The great defense and that big win, that buzzer beater against Virginia Union.
Yeah.
The team who a lot of people, including myself, they won the regular season handily.
Right.
And I thought that they would be the winner of the tournament. For them to win that close game over Union in the fashion that they did, it was almost a buzzer beater. That was the moment at that point right there when you thought that they may be on to something in terms of winning the tournament, at least by taking out the number 1 overall seed. And there's a huge chance that even though they did lose based upon how they played throughout the regular season and their out of conference record as well, that Virginia Union may make it into the tournament as well. But that was that moment there. Even though both teams did look a little sluggish in the title game too, in terms of Virginia Union and Lincoln, kind of early on.
Yep.
But when Winston-Salem State started to, well, no, because I think if memory serves me correctly, they had they had a first half lead, and they were just capable of holding on to that lead in the second half. But yeah, they didn't seem like they had a lot of energy coming into that title game, though.
Yeah. So the same question with the men as I posed the women earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the standings, Virginia Union had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
12-4 in the conference, 1 in Northern Division, 24-6 overall. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking here. Winston State also won 20 games.
Mm-hmm.
But given that Winston State, like, even though they may have been a dark horse, they weren't favored to win it all in the conference tournament. Where does that leave Virginia Union? Do they deserve in your mind in that large sphere? Because they had too damn good of a season to be left out, I would think.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Based upon what they did throughout the regular season, in my eyes, they deserve to be in as an at-large.
I totally agree with that. So let's just hope that that the selection committee agrees with us. Because again, it'd be a shame if Virginia was left out 24-6 overall record.
I think that they're one of the best 16 teams within the region, most definitely. And if memory serves me correctly, they do it by regions. They do it by true regions in Division II, unlike Division I.
Okay. So define what to the listeners, what do you mean by true regions, right quick?
Well, basically the regions within the country. You know, I have to look and see exactly what those regions are, but I believe that Virginia Union and the CIAA is a part of that Atlantic region.
Okay, cool. All right, moving right along to the SIAC or SIAC, depending on where you're from. It's going to take place at Savannah State University Tiger Arena. It's actually it's taking place there. It's going to be I think is it going to end on March 4th? Yeah, it's going to end on March 4th.
It's ending March 4th, yeah.
Correct. All right, cool. So there you have it. So basically, I'm looking at the brackets. Well, actually, the bottom standings, the seedings. And the women, Tuskegee, man, 19-0 in conference.
Clark First Atlanta undefeated season in their history.
There you go. That's awesome too. Clark Atlanta finished 14-5. We got Miles State at 13-6. The host Savannah State at 12-7. Besides, is there anyone in your mind that could, on the women's side, that could possibly upset Tuskegee?
That could possibly upset Tuskegee?
Yeah.
Wow, the way it's looking right now, you know, like you said, the tournament's currently going on right now.
Yeah.
And if I think that the Savannah State Edward Waters winner tomorrow will dictate who faces Tuskegee on Friday. Maybe in the finals, maybe Miles, maybe Lane. I don't know. But Tuskegee has looked Tuskegee has been flawless throughout the season. And even though I haven't necessarily been following the conference closely, so I couldn't tell you based upon what their individual matchups were against against Lane and the other number 2 seeds in Savannah State and in Miles. I maybe Savannah State surprises them, being that they're the home institution. But yeah, it'll be intriguing to see if anyone's going to be capable of upsetting that team who was perfect during the regular season.
Yeah, it should be very fascinating. But I think as dominant as Tuskegee the women are, I think the men's going to be wide open. I mean, Tuskegee again, 15-5 tie with Miles. also finished 15-5. Morehouse College in the East Division finished 15-6.
Mm-hmm.
Savannah State 14-7 right behind them. So to me, this is going to be a meat grind, right?
Yeah.
So because I think you could pretty much say, I don't want to say toss up per se, but I think 4 or 5 teams could win this tournament on the men's side. Tuskegee, Miles, Morehouse, Savannah State, maybe even Lemoyne Owen. You know, they finished 13-7. But who's your favorite out of that fearsome 5-set?
Well, Lemoyne Owen has already been knocked out.
Okay.
So right now we're facing
Okay.
K-State and the winner of tonight's Morehouse Lane game will move on to the semis.
Mm-hmm.
And they will face the winner of Savannah State Benedict tomorrow and Miles and Edward Waters tomorrow, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So we're waiting to see exactly what happens with the game that's actually going on right now as we speak between Morehouse and Lane. Last I looked, Morehouse is winning at halftime. But yeah, if Morehouse is capable of moving on, like you said, it could be a hot box between those top 4 seeds.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, that's not.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry. I just thought I misread that. No, I was right. It just happens to be the same teams all over again. That's insane. Where you had Savannah State as the number 2 seed for both the men and women.
Okay.
Miles the number 2 seed for both the men and women,
Mm-hmm.
and Edward Waters moving. Yeah, so it seems like it's the same 4 or 5 schools on both sides of the bracket, and I thought I may have had a typo in carrying over the information. No, it's just the same teams made it on both sides. So, but yeah, like you were asking, it could be a hot box between K-State, Morehouse, if they get by tonight, Savannah State and Miles, in the semis.
Okay, so one more thing before we move on to the SWAC and the MEAC. It's about rivalries. Now, I'm just curious. This is out of nowhere. I know Morehouse's rival is Clark, Atlanta, obviously, but who's considered a true rival of Tuskegee?
In the SIAC?
Yeah.
Wow. Man.
Because I know Tuskegee, and I think is it Alabama State have a rivalry?
Oh,
But that's
Tuskegee and
different.
Alabama State most definitely have a rivalry.
Yeah.
It's probably Miles because
Okay.
they're also in Alabama as well.
Okay, cool. I was always curious about that. But
Yeah.
anywho, before we continue on with the MEAC and the SWAC and the MEAC, I should say, let me give a quick shout out to my sponsor at BetUs.com. So let's have sports bet. It's your favorite sports book. BetUS.com is back for the 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus up to 200%, BetUS offers their members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, UFC, and MLB. And if you look for live in-game betting, incredible odds with daily odds, boosters, props, and parlays, they got it. How about fast payouts and exceptional one-on-one customer service? They have that too. So log into betus.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BET-US. Use the promo code TKT for the Klown Times as well. BetUS.com, where the game begins. All right, we're gonna get to the SWAC tournament right quick. So basically, we're gonna, it takes place next week in Birmingham, Alabama, to quote the great Keith Jackson. We're gonna start with the women. I'm sorry, I'm in the MEAC. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, cool. All right, we're gonna start with the with the women. So basically, give a quick shout out to Tamika Reed for a dominant season for Jackson State women. Finished 15-1 in conference play, 18-8 overall. Finished on the 12-game winning streak, if you can believe that. Followed by Alabama State and Alabama A&M at 12-4, 11-5 respectively. All three at or barely over 500. So on paper, to me, this should be Jackson State's conference title to lose. But you know what they say, upsets happen. We're getting to March Madness right now. So is there anyone who could knock off Jackson State women in the conference tournament?
Well, their lone loss was to Prairie View this season.
Right.
And Grambling gave them a close game during the year as well. Everyone else they literally blew out.
Yeah.
So I think it might be a situation in the semis if the standings stay the same as of tonight. Jackson is of course the league leader with a 3-game lead on Alabama State with 2 games remaining in the season.
Yeah, it's not over yet. I didn't forget that's not over yet.
Yeah, so teams like Alabama State, who has a 1-game lead over Alabama A&M and a 1.5 game lead over Prairie View, there still could be some jockeying of position between those spots 2 through 4 before the season is over with. So that's something we most definitely got to keep an eye out on. And if that happens, it could be a situation where, like I said before, it could be a 1-4 in the semis between Jackson State and Prairie View, or maybe it could be a situation where Prairie View, if they play well enough, can meet Jackson State in the finals one more time. So the Prairie View is most definitely the team to watch in that situation. But we got to see exactly how well the 2 Alabama schools play throughout the tournament too, to see if they'll be able to surprise them.
Yeah. So I misspoke there. Just a point of order that Jack State has not ended on the 12-game winning streak because they have 2 more games left to play. But they're currently on a 12-game winning streak, which is equally impressive as well. Yeah. All right. So
and don't forget about Alabama State. That's currently riding in the 6-game win streak themselves.
Yes, that's correct. And they're hot. They're hot as fish grease as well. Would it be something though if we got another Jackson State LSU matchup in the early rounds of the NCAA tournament, given that the game that they played last year, and the fact that Kim Mulkey, head coach of LSU, gave Jackson State a backhanded compliment? That'd be great.
I mean,
it up again.
Reed didn't see it that way. A little bit at least. Well, from what I remember, she didn't outwardly say anything about it. Sure. But it did kind of seem that way. But because what did she say? If memory serves me, she said something to the effect of she should be elsewhere because she's that good of a coach.
Yeah, I think so. But some people took that as a shot at the conference. Not at her per se, not Tamika Reed per se, because that was Kim Mulkey's way of acknowledging that Reed is a damn good coach. I think it was a more some people took that as a shot at the school instead of at the coach herself. I think.
God, as much as I hate to come up their out of conference record, kind of like the football out of conference record, is much to be desired.
That's true.
It's a lot to be said about their OOC and their strength of schedule outside of the conference in terms of their wins. And I guess that's what she's most definitely taking a look at too. But
I'm looking at it too. I'm sorry, bro. I'm just looking at it too because like they got blown out by North Carolina. They got the same with Colorado.
Yeah.
They beat Texas Tech. They beat Louisiana. I think that was the preseason tournament. They lost at UCLA. It was respectable. They lost at Oregon State. The margin was respectable. They lost at Missouri. They got hammered by Texas at home. So they hosted Texas Longhorns at home, which was pretty cool. Not many people big like Power Fives go to HBCUs play. And they got beat handily by Washington State. So your point's well taken, brother.
See? But before we move on, it just came across my Twitter feed. Morehouse was able to hold on against Lane to beat them 68-64. So they do advance. They do advance to the semifinal round.
Okay, cool. So the house is still in it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law will be happy about that. He's a Morehouse grad. Anywho, all right, cool. So basically, the verdict on the women's side is Jackson, pretty much Jackson State's tournament to lose, with Alabama State being a dark horse, potential to make some noise.
Well, I believe, though, like I said before, those two schools from Alabama and Prairie
Yes.
View could be the teams that could potentially surprise Jackson State, based upon what they've done during the season, not only within the conference, but what Prairie View being the only team to knock off Jackson State during the regular season.
Yeah, well,
but yeah, Jackson State has been a juggernaut all year long.
Yeah, and they've been quite dominant. Quite dominant, and good for Tamika Reed again. So Tamika Reed, I should say again. She might not be around much longer because she's that good of a coach. Yeah. So moving to the men's side.
What did Dion used to say? Pay the man.
Yep. Pay the woman.
Man. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So the men's side, it's a little more competitive. Actually, a lot more competitive. It's got Grambling and Alcorn tied at 13-3 in conference play. Obviously, they both had 2 more games left in the season, followed by Southern and Jackson State at 10-6 in the conference. But Grambling and Alcorn looks y'all the only 2 teams to be to be above 500 overall record. With Grambling winning games, which is pretty damn good, I think. So this is going to be more of a toss-up compared to the women's side. Do you see a possible scenario where neither Grambling nor Alcorn wins the conference title, which wins the conference tournament title inside?
Possibly Southern.
Okay.
Because they look good earlier on during conference play. So if they can somehow revert back to that, all it takes is whoever's hot during the tournament, not even entering the tournament. Whoever's hottest in the tournament,
right,
usually wins that tournament. And we've seen success out of Southern earlier in the season, so I wouldn't be surprised if they won it. Same thing could be said about Jackson State as well. But you're right, the way that Alcorn and Grambling have looked throughout the year, primarily Grambling. On paper, it's their tournaments to have.
Right. Because they again they finished well. I mean, not finished, but they got 2 more games left to play. But they had a pretty damn good season, 20-8, man.
Yeah,
that's nothing to sniff at. I mean, look at the out of conference now. They won at Vanderbilt, which is Vanderbilt, but still it's an SEC win on the road. They beat UTSA. They beat Colorado at Grambling.
They beat Colorado at Grambling, yeah.
So they got it. They fared pretty well. I mean, sure they lost some big ones, but they only lost 3 out of conference, and they dropped the game they probably should have won it versus Incarnate Word, sir. So it's not like one of those typical playing games as a 16 seed. I think if they win, if Grambling wins the conference tournament, I think they can go higher than this, even a 15 or 14 seed. I think maybe a 14 seed at the lowest, given their record and out of conference.
Scott, don't hold your breath. If anything, truthfully, I see them being a 15 seed, and that's the ceiling.
Okay.
That's
fair.
For them, I would hope, and this is fingers crossed, that they avoid the playing game.
Yeah.
That's a hope. The guy, even with that, doesn't, because the guys, the teams that make the playing game don't necessarily play the number 1 overall seed, right?
Right. Well, wait a minute. The ones I've seen who the playing tournaments are the 16 and 11 seeds, correct? So if you're 11 seed, those tend to be your last out at large bids, like the last ones in, like Joe Lunardi likes to say on ESPN. Those tend to be those cats. The conference winners, if they're in the playing tournament, they're the 16 seeds, and their fate is they're pretty much certain, about to be the sacrificial lamb of wherever the top seed is.
Okay. So, yeah, if they can somehow avoid the playing game, Even though the MEAC and the SWAC in most years recently, since the intro of the playing game, have had a hard time avoiding that matchup.
Mhm.
Um, Hopefully a 20-8 or 22-8 if they are able to run the table for the final two games of the regular season. A 22-8 season and running rim shot throughout the tournament should be a way for them not to play in the play-in game and at best get a 15 seed.
Mhm. Gotcha.
Because it would be a little bit weird in my eyes. I don't care how weak you think the conference is for a
Mhm.
team that is 22-8 to be a 16 seed. It just would be to me.
Yeah, you're right. We've seen crazier things, right? But I'm not holding my breath, just like you. I'm not holding my breath because we
Yeah,
now know how they treat some of these conferences. So particularly the
yeah.
HBCUs. So it is what it is. Last but not least,
Hmm.
saving the best for last. Our beloved MEAC. Yes, we still love the MEAC, even though A&T bailed on them way back when. But anywho, we still love our Aggies though, but we love our MEAC. The conference tournament, the MEAC tournament is taking place in Norfolk, Virginia at the Scope.
Hmm.
And oddly enough, I used to go to a church convention there when I was a kid. So memories. But anyway,
Yeah, the Scope is the home of one of the greatest moments in wrestling history with the attempt of invasion with the DX of WCW. For those that
how about
remember, who are
that?
big wrestling fans. Yeah.
Nice. How about that? That's the little known fact there.
Yeah, I had to let my wrestling nerddom go for a little bit. Every time I go to Norfolk for a MEAC
Mhm.
um sponsored event, I always have to go by the Scope. A little bit of that comes out in me when I go past the Scope. But yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, for the women's side of things, Norfolk State um, is 11-2 right now.
Hmm.
23-5 overall record. That's that's that'll work.
Yeah.
And they fall by Morgan State and Howard are tied at 9-4 respectively currently.
Hmm.
So basically, um, right now, because like they have, I think the last game is going to be at Howard tomorrow
Yeah.
night. That's the
Hmm.
last game.
I'm
So
gonna see if I'm not tired. See if I can make my way there for that game
oh,
tomorrow.
okay, cool. So basically, pretty much Norfolk State pretty much won the regular season title. So
Yeah.
um, given that it's kind of like the tournament's going to kind of be like a home game, home site for Norfolk State.
Hmm.
Who do you think has the capable of throwing a monkey wrench, if you will, into Norfolk State's plans in the conference tournament?
The only team that got a chance to, well, one of the few teams that beat them this season, that's the number 2 seed, Morgan State, has an opportunity to do so. Um, God, the way that they handled Howard during the regular season,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little problematic for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see, who else was it that gave them a L because they're 11-2 during the season. Um, yeah, I don't see. Oh, Central. Central was the team that beat them at the crib.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're able, again, if things stay the way that they do, and somehow Howard is well, if things stay the way that they do, and they're able to beat Howard in
Yeah.
DC tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
they most definitely was. They'll keep the number 1 seed regardless, but they'll just hold Howard at the number 3 seed. With the chance of facing Central in the semifinals. If
Mm-hmm.
that happens, Central is another one of the teams that actually um, beat Norfolk in during the regular season.
At home,
I don't know if
at
they do.
Norfolk too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not they're capable of doing so again. But yeah, that Howard team, we'll see how Howard looks against Norfolk tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
If they play well, unlike they did down in Norfolk during the regular season, but if they play well tomorrow, maybe they can carry that into the tournament with an opportunity of having some sort of hopes of upsetting them in the tournament. But as of right now, I'm leaning towards Morgan, who actually gave them a lost number 2 seed, the potential number 2 seed, if they don't lose, and if Morgan loses and Howard wins tomorrow, then Howard moves up to the number 2 seed. But either way, it's just jockeying between seedings between 2 and 3 between Howard and Morgan. But yeah, Morgan will probably be that team that I see that could be the biggest threat towards Norfolk during the tournament.
Now, Norfolk State. Looking at their schedule, looking at their run. If for some reason something goes wrong in the conference tournament, especially if they make it to the semifinal round of the conference tournament, you would think, looking at their record, looking at who they beat out of conference, they won at Appalachian State, they won at College of Charleston, they beat Marshall, beat Campbell, they won. I mean, I'm sorry, they beat Tennessee Martin, but basically, one would think they lost them at Penn State by just 6 points. One would think, and they beat William and Mary and they beat UNC Wilmington. So one would think that they would be deserving of an at-large spot in case something went wrong in the conference tournament. Am I speaking out of turn here? Am I barking up the wrong tree with this?
Yeah. As good as their OOC is, I would not be surprised if they somehow make their way to the NIT because of how they see the entire conference. It would be nice if they were able to earn an at-large bid, but I wouldn't hold my breath. If anything, take care of business. You earn your automatic seed into the tournament.
Correct.
Don't lean on, well, we had a 20-win season. And we played well against these teams out of conference. We should make it. Don't even think about that. Go in and win your games, and you won't have to worry about that.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Last but not least, the men's side of our beloved MEAC. Speaking of Howard, you mentioned Howard earlier. Howard's men leading the conference right now at 10-3, but one more game left to play. They're ahead of Norfolk State and Central by one game. They're 18-12 overall. Norfolk State is 20-9. They're the only 20 game winner in the conference. So this may be a case of the big three, right? A triumph.
Yeah.
Howard, Norfolk State, and North Carolina Central. So who do you think will come out of that as a winner in the conference tournament between those three?
First and foremost, round of applause. Kenny Blakeney and that coaching staff over at Howard. When they recruited McCormaker, there was talks that this team would end up eventually becoming good with Maker there.
Okay.
Maker ain't been there for 2 years now. And yet somehow, some way, with the talent that Blakeney was able to recruit to come here to play in Georgia Avenue, Howard University has won at least a share of the regular season title for the first time in 31 years. A win tomorrow night, which is basically the brawl for it all in my eyes, between them and Norfolk State at the Burr, will solidify who the regular season champion will be outright. Will Howard be the outright champion, or will they share? Will there be a co-championships with Norfolk heading into the tournament? To answer your question, I truly believe that those three programs most definitely can be are legitimate enough to win the tournament. You know, we've seen what Moulton has been able to do with North Carolina Central over the past 7 to 8 years. Same thing in the same time frame with Robert Jones and North Carolina Central. The in my eyes, even though they're coming in as a potential 1 seed, this is the team that hasn't done it in a long time, and that's Howard. I will be intrigued to see how they handle their first game within the tournament. However, how they play that game to me will kind of be like a precursor of how they handle the rest of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they need to get that those jitters out of off them coming to that tournament as a potential number 1 seed. If they're able to do that, they should be able to move on to the semis and face the potential winner of North Carolina Central. Well, actually, no, that would be a finals matchup, wouldn't it? So yeah, that semis matchup would be them and no, I'm sorry. I completely forgot about Morgan State. We sat here and completely ignored Morgan State. No, I'm sorry, no, it's the women's. But yeah, to your point with again, Norfolk and Central being the 2 and the 3 seed. I'm trying to see who's that 4 seed. Who would that 4 seed potentially be? In the MEAC for the men. That would be it's Eastern Shore. I completely forgot about
Eastern Shore. Yeah, that 8-5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if Eastern Shore has Delaware State, they should be able to get a win over Delaware State. Central has South Carolina State, another easy win against those 2 teams that they should be able to get wins over. So yeah, if with Howard potentially getting over South Carolina State in the first round, which they should be able to do in a cakewalk, that Eastern Shore matchup will be big to see how they get through that. And then they'll end up getting the winner of the Central Norfolk State matchup if things stay the same going into the tournament after tomorrow night.
Where can the great people find your great work on social media and follow you on social media?
At the Yard HBCU on all platforms of social media. I most definitely will be following not only the MEAC and the SWAC tournament, but I'm gonna see if I can sneak over to the CIAA as well to check out A&T this weekend when the men's they get started this weekend with their both A&T and Hampton with their inaugural voyage into the CIAA men's basketball tournament starting this weekend. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can sneak my way over to Southeast to check out that matchup too.
Cool, man. All right, so we're gonna get to you next week about the SWAC and MEAC. So y'all follow this brother's great work. He's gonna be covering both the SWAC and MEAC tournaments. And so you're not gonna miss that again. You see his website on the backdrop on this wall there, theyardhbcu.com. And follow him. Follow him. You'd be glad you did. Also, herosports.com. Check out his great work there. And last but not least, him all at his crew at Sleazy Radio every Tuesday now on Facebook Live and YouTube. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, you'd be glad you did. I'd be glad you did. Check out my website, www.theclowntimes.net. Excuse me, that's Clown spelled with K. And so we're going to get the merch at CaptainPress.com. Search for the Klown Times Sports. All the links I mentioned to his great work and what I have going on will be in the description under this video on YouTube. So until next time, have a good weekend. Enjoy the basketball. Holler at us next week. Peace out.